Well, good morning. Welcome to Chaparral. We are glad you're here. If you're visiting with us and you're back from Easter, glad you're here. We are kind of biased, but we think it's a great place to be. We all kind of come from different backgrounds here at Chaparral, but we're all here together, I think, with a pretty common vision of trying to reach out to our community, to love others around us the way Jesus loves us first. That's kind of our common identity. However, like I said, we all kind of have these different ways of getting here to Chaparral. We're from a lot of different backgrounds. Some are from big cities, some from small cities, some from, got here via highways, some got here via the old dirt road. So we're all a little different in all of that. But we're all here in Scottsdale. And I know your relatives probably think, oh, you're in Scottsdale. You're one of those, highbrow, highfalutin type people now. Well, I kind of know you people, and you're not. So, I'm just kidding. But the reality is we're all pretty different. And to prove that today, to prove that we have a little country in all of us as we get here, I'm going to play some songs, just the beginning of a song. And I want you to sing the rest of the line. Okay, now, you might not recognize these songs. I'm hoping you do, but I know some of you do because you're old enough. So, again, I'm going to play the first part, and you got to sing out now. You got to sing out the second. It's not going to work. Okay, you ready? All right, first song. Here it is.
And when he finished speaking, he turned back toward the window, crushed out a cigarette, faded off to sleep. And somewhere in the darkness,
here it comes.
The gambler, he broke even. But in his final words, I found an ace that I could keep. You got...
All right, yeah. That's good, man. How many have never heard that song before, ever? Yeah, my daughter. Yeah, thanks. Okay, how about this one? Here's another one, another good one.
Tonight begins a new day. And if you don't understand him, and he don't die young, he'll probably just ride away.
Here you go.
Mama.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, cool. You guys are great. Okay, and this one I know Austin's going to know for sure. So Austin's got to sing out on this one. All right, thank you, Abigail. That was awesome. Okay, now this last one is the kind of the point of my sermon. So if you missed this one, we're kind of done for the day. Okay, like no pressure, but you got to get this one down, okay? And I'll give you a hint, it's Toby Keith. So, Taylor, you know Toby Keith, right, Taylor? Okay, here we go. Ready? Here we go. There you go, a lot more action. Good. Whew. All right, that worked. All right, but here's the thing, right? We've been talking about love rising up, and the deal with love is you don't talk about it, you don't wish about it, you don't, what if about it or have great intentions. Love is about a lot less talk, or a little less talk and a lot more action, right? So that's what we've been talking about. We're going to be talking about for the next few weeks is that love is active. It rises up. It's just not a matter of our best intentions. And if you want to quote the great philosopher Toby Keith, right? Love is a little less talk and a lot more action. And that's what God does, right? God gets involved. God doesn't look at our lives and say, wow, you guys really messed up, or that's pretty terrible, I feel bad for you. He got involved. He sent Jesus to come to the earth and to teach and to heal and to cure and to give us an example, right? To lead us. And when we failed to follow that example, when we ignored him and betrayed him and abandoned him and eventually crucified him, he still came back. He came back, he rose up, and he returned to us to give us a second chance, to teach us again to rise up in the lives of other people and to show the love that he has for us. In 1 John 4, it says, in this is love, not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his son to be the atoning sacrifice for our sins. That's what love is, right? Love rises up. Love is active. God showed up and did stuff. But then it goes on in the next verse in 1 John 4, it said, beloved, since God loved us so much, we also ought to love one another. There's a response in that. 1 John 4, 7 and 8. Beloved, let us love one another, because love is from God, and everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, for God is love. If you don't love, if you're not active in your love, then you simply don't know God, because God is love, and that love is active. It's not a matter of having the right Bible knowledge or having the right best doctrine or getting 100% on a Bible quiz. What love is about and knowing God is about is active love in the lives of other people. So in that, though, in that active love, God has some pretty high expectations. In John 15, Jesus says this, "This is my commandment, that you love one another," and here's the hard part, "as I have loved you." He says, I want you to love other people actively, but in the same way that I loved you. And how did Jesus love us? Literally to death. I mean, he literally loved us to his death. And he calls us to do the same. And you're probably thinking, well, hold on a second. I'm not Jesus. I can't love like that. You know, I'm new to this Christianity thing, or I've got damage in my past, stuff that's happened to me in the past, and because of all that junk in the past, I can't love like Jesus loves. Well, I don't see any escape clauses in what he says here. There's no excuses in what he says here. He simply says, I want you to love each other in the same way that I have loved you. And that's our goal for this series. And so we're going to start off this Rise Up with actually something that's pretty simple, something that every single one of us in this room can do beginning today to begin to get at this commandment that Jesus has of to love one another as he has loved us. So we're going to start right there, again, with a pretty simple thing, and that is to be present. One way that you can actively show love to people is simply by being available and present in their lives. That's it. You being you with them. Having an ear that can hear them, having a heart that can listen to and open to them, hands that help, just literally being present in their lives can be helpful. Because sometimes you're in dark places and you want someone to be with you. Most of you probably have been to like a camp, like with the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, or maybe with church camp, and you've been out in the woods, and it's dark. There's no moon, there's no stars. I mean, it is dark, and you have to go back to your tent, and all you've got is some little flashlight you got from the convenience store, little pen light and little bitty beam of light. That's all you can see. You're walking along, and you hear the trees, and you hear the stuff rustling in the bushes, and you're kind of afraid. What do you want? Someone to come along and walk with you so you're not by yourself. It's scary being alone. Or anybody here been snipe hunting? A few of you, Austin. That's okay. It's a blast, right? Your friends take you out into the woods, and they give you a pillow, a pillowcase, and a flashlight. And they say, okay, I want you to kneel down here and take the flashlight and shine it in the pillowcase, and we're going to go out and we're going to rustle up some snipe, and they're going to run toward you with their big, huge, sharp claws, and you're going to catch them in the bag. So I want to go to the light. Just sit there in the dark with your flashlight and wait for us to get some snipe to run your way. Anybody done that? Yeah, right? And you're scared. You're by yourself. You're in the woods, and they're all kind of giggling at you. Your friends are giggling at you. It's a scary thing to do. If you've never done it before, give it a try. It's actually not that bad. No, I'm just kidding. But here's the thing. There are times in our lives when we actually need someone to walk alongside us. Times in our life that are dark, like those dark woods. And we need someone just to come alongside and just be there to help us through those dark places. And nobody does that better than God. Right? From the very first steps that Jesus makes on the earth in the Gospel of Matthew, he is called Emmanuel, which means God with us. When he leaves at the end of the Gospel of Matthew, he's with his friends, he's resurrected, he's going back to the Father, and he says to them, look, I'm going to be with you always to the very end of the age. That's his name, God with us. And he tells us that again and again and again. Even in the Old Testament, we have the same idea there. In Psalm 23, it says, even though I walk through the darkest valley. I mean, it's dark, man. I can't see anything. It's dark. I'm there. He says, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Now, I love that verse because what is a rod used for with sheep? you think? Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. What's the rod used for? Whoosh, on the sheep, right? They get out of line, whoosh, and they have to get back in line. But here's the thing. He's close enough to use it. Right? God is close enough to be near us to keep us on the right path, to discipline us. One of the worst things I think that can happen is when someone says, I'm done with you. Do what you want. Ever had that happen to you maybe? Someone's up, fine, do what you want. It's like the worst. What you want is someone who will help guide. And even if it's a little discipline, a little bit of a rod, at least they're close enough, they care enough to be with you in that way. And God says this to us again and again and again, that he is present with us even in the darkest valleys. And that goes on to eternity. In John 14, Jesus says this, in my Father's house, there are many dwelling places. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and will take you to myself so that where I am, there you may be also. That's a pretty powerful statement. He is going away to prepare a place for us in his house. He wants you to be his roommate. That's pretty crazy. He doesn't say, hey, Austin, there's a guest house right down the street over there. You can go and hang out down there because you're a mess. He doesn't do that, right? He says, you know what? I want you to be my roommate. I want to be with you that close. God says that to you. That's a pretty powerful statement. But sometimes we get caught up in, well, what's the house like? I mean, is there free internet in God's house? Is there going to be room service? Is there a golf course there that kind of all the holes kind of drain down to the holes, so it's all hole-in-ones? Is that what it's like? Is there a place for my pony? I mean, we get these questions, and really, it's not a matter of what heaven is like or what this house is like, but who lives there. That God is going to be with us is kind of the point of this whole thing. In fact, I really have never envisioned heaven as kind of the white puffy clouds, eternal vacation kind of thing. You get a harp cloud and go hang out. I've just never seen that in the Bible, where God says, hey, welcome to heaven. There's your cloud, there's your harp. Have a good time. I just don't see that, because in Jesus' parables, there's much more withness, if you will, between God and us. In Matthew 25, Jesus tells a story about these three servants who are given some responsibilities. Okay, the master's leaving for a while, and so he gives these three a large sum of money, a large chunk of change, and says, I want you guys to be responsible for this. He leaves for a long time. And when he comes back, he says, okay, I'm back. Now tell me what you did with your money that I gave you. Because there's like a judgment, a reckoning, if you will. And so one of them comes forward and says, well, I took what you gave me, and it was wise, and I worked hard, and I made some good decisions, and I doubled what you gave me. I doubled it. And look at what the master says back in Matthew 25. He says, his master said to him, well done, good and trustworthy slave. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. This is a story about the judgment. Jesus is saying, look, God puts you and me in charge of things right now. We're like that servant. He's given us things to do, be responsible for, people to take care of. And the judgment, he says, how'd you do? And then after the judgment, the heaven part is, good, you've been responsible for these things. I'm now going to give you in charge of many things, which means we'll be responsible for stuff in heaven. Have responsibilities, things to do, working with God. So it's not about what heaven is like or what we're going to be doing in heaven. It's all about who is there, who we're going to be with. It's a time when we are literally with God. So there's no more tears. There's no more sorrow. The stuff we're worried about today that's just got us all caught up type of knots, not going to be worried about that stuff. We're going to be actually with God. It's like being at a big family feast, like Thanksgiving, right? You're finally all together as a family. The food's good. You're enjoying each other's company. But in heaven, there's a better game on TV than the Lions and the Packers. It's going to be a good time together. Not one single Packers fan had a comment about that? Okay. All right. So here's the thing. The central way that God expresses love is to rise up and literally be with us. And that then flows to us. We are created to be relational beings. We are created to be in relationship with people. Because God's with us, we're to be with other people. That's part of it. In Genesis 2, verse 8, it says, "It is not good that the man should be alone. I will make a helper as his partner." There's a witness. From the very beginning, we are created to be in community. And when we don't find that, we find problems. And I know you're thinking, that's not a big new thing, right? We get it. We're supposed to be relational. I understand that. In fact, our culture understands that. Not just Christians, our culture understands that. So earlier in the sermon, we talked about country music, right? We did some country songs. Well, to be fair, we look at some blues now. Some blues. Who likes the blues here? Anybody like the blues? Ken likes the blues? All right, well, check out this lesson from the blues.
We're so glad to see so many of you lovely people here tonight. We would especially like to welcome all the representatives of Illinois' law enforcement community who have chosen to join us here in the Palace Hotel Ballroom at this time. We certainly hope you all enjoy the show. And remember, people, that no matter who you are and what you do to live, thrive, and survive, there's still some things that make us all the same. You, me, them, everybody. Everybody.
All right, there you go. Wisdom from the Blues Brothers, right? Everybody needs somebody to love. Even they get that. And that's what we'll be talking about today. That statistically, when we're alone, when we isolate ourselves, when we choose to isolate ourselves, or we find ourselves isolated, we see things like anxiety going up, substance abuse, difficulty eating or sleeping, low self-esteem. All those things are connected to isolation. And from the very beginning, Christians knew this. Earliest Christians got together at least once a week, at least that often, and met together to share a meal, to pray, to worship, but to simply be together. There's also good science in this idea of being connected and just being with each other. In his book, Bowling Alone, Robert Putnam says that if we can be in just one meaningful group, just one, you cut your risk of dying that year in half. If you're involved in one meaningful group, in that you cut your risk of dying in that year in half. Which I think would be an awesome new motto for small groups, right? Join chaparral small groups or die. That kind of get people involved. But that's kind of the idea, right? We all need someone to cheer for us. I mean, how awesome is when someone's cheering for you? When they're like actually excited about what you're doing or being involved in your life. They're just cheering you on, giving you a hug, praying for you when you need it, asking you, hey, how's it going with that job? Hey, how's it going in your life, your relationships? Hey, how's that sports thing that you're going to be doing here pretty soon? When we get involved in people's lives, it means something. It's being with each other. And it's a small thing. It's a small thing, but it's huge in their lives. Last week we said, Mother Teresa said, we can all do small things with great love. Just being present is one of those things. Just showing up and being there. Several years ago, probably 15 years or more ago, Stacy and I were back in Georgia. We were at a church called First Christian Church in Forsyth County, Georgia. And a young lady, 16, had just gotten back from church camp. And she was driving her car back home, and she was tired and fell asleep at the wheel. She got in a car accident and stopped breathing for a good bit of time. When she got to the hospital, she was on life support. And we showed up, the church showed up, and it was dark. It was one of those really super, super dark, heavy times. Well, she remained on life support for 2 weeks before she passed. 2 weeks. And during that time, something amazing happened. The church started showing up every day, every hour of every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in the waiting room. They brought food, answered phones, did whatever. We're just simply there. They didn't talk, just were there. And no one made a spreadsheet about who's going to fill in the blanks. They just did it. And over time, they began to kind of take over that waiting room. When I'd show up as a minister, they would say, hey, Frank, can you go visit room 14? There's a guy there who just, we began to minister to the entire floor of this hospital, this trauma area. And it was amazing to see that happen, that just being present kind of began to transform this very dark place to have just a little bit of light in it while they were there. And the church just did that on their own by being present. So what about you? Is there someone in your life that needs a ministry of presence, just being there? Right now, I bet you can probably think of someone right now that you know that needs somebody. They need someone to love them. Maybe that could be you. Maybe it's someone close. Maybe it's a child or a spouse. I mean, sometimes we get so busy with life, we kind of, right? I mean, Stacy and I see each other all the time. But it's very hard to stay connected because we're always busy doing stuff. We're just kind of passing by each other. You have to stop and actually make a decision to be present. And so in our time together, this last little bit, I want to give you one practical thing, just one, kind of the brass tacks, one thing you can do this week or today to begin a ministry of presence in someone's life. And it's super simple. And it's something, though, that's actually transformative. You can do this with a friend or your family. If you're a parent or a grandparent, what we're going to talk about now actually statistically and scientifically has been proven to make major changes in the life of children. Huge changes. Huge. If you do this one thing, you can give your child a 40% greater chance of getting A's and B's in school. If you do this one thing, your child will be 3 times less likely to smoke anything. It'll help teenagers know their parents are proud of them. It will help kids realize that they can be confident and they can confide in their parents about big things in life. This one thing. And this one thing can help reduce childhood obesity by 40%. That's some pretty big stuff, right? Good grades, confidence, stay out of trouble. All that from this one thing that you can do today. And next week I'll tell you all about it. No, I'm just kidding. I'll tell you now. You know what it is? Share a meal. Isn't that bizarre? Scientifically, statistically, if you sit down at a table and share a meal with your family or your friend, all this stuff can happen. Because you're actually being with somebody. I mean, yeah, we're hungry for the food, but the deeper hunger is to have conversation. Put the phone away and talk. Just that has shown these remarkable results because we're actually feeding the greatest need we have, which is for a relationship with other people. So who is that friend that you need to maybe invite to lunch? Or maybe have a family dinner tonight? Or breakfast tomorrow? But just sit down around the table. Even if you have like a friend, a lot of you have friends, take them to lunch. Take their phones, put them in the center of the table, say the first person to touch their phone pays for everybody's meal. Right? So they won't look at them. And then talk. What's going on in your life? Hey, how's that thing, dead job, whatever. But just spend time talking together because that simple connection is an active way of rising up and showing love to somebody else. In Galatians 6, Paul says, bear one another's burdens. And in this way, you will fulfill the law of Christ. It's simple. He says, you want to fulfill God's law? Yes. I don't want to fulfill all of God's law? Great. Then help each other. It's that simple. Bear one another's burdens. And that begins by just being with somebody. So you can find out what those burdens actually are. A lot of you I know have seen the Lord of the Rings movies. They're great. Well, the way the story goes, if you know, is that Frodo, this guy, he gets this responsibility of having to take this ring, right, to Mount Mordor and get rid of it. And he feels he's got to do it alone. Like he's got this huge responsibility. It's dangerous. He doesn't want to get anybody else hurt. And he's got his friend named Sam. So he tells Sam, I've got to go alone. You can't go with me. I've got to go alone. This is dangerous and so forth. And Sam says, well, of course you have to go alone. But I'm going with you. Right? You want friends like that. Right? They'll go with us and stuff. Well, they go on this whole journey, this whole remarkable, crazy adventure with Gandalf and Aragorn and all this kind of stuff. They end up at Mount Mordor at the end of the third movie, or end of the book, if you read the book. They get to the bit there, and Frodo's done. Right? He can't go any farther. He feels evil all over him. He's tired. He's exhausted. He just can't go another step, and he can't get rid of the ring. And Sam goes up to him and says, hey, Frodo, do you remember what it was like back in the Shire? Right? We had strawberries. Remember how great that was? And the grass under our feet, how great that was? Remember all that? That was awesome. But then he says, I can't carry you. Or, I'm sorry, I can't carry the ring, but I can carry you. I can't carry it, Frodo, but I can carry you. And he carries his friend so he can finish his journey. We need friends like that. We need to be friends like that. If we're going to show active love to others, if we're going to rise up and show others the love of God that's in us, it begins by being present, by saying, you know what, I'm going to go with you. And if necessary, I'm going to carry you. But I'm going to stay right here, stick beside you, and be with you. Let's rise up. Let's pray together.